My mother used my allergies to keep me a prisoner until I exposed her own crimes. When I was 5 years old, my father passed away in a car accident while driving me to a doctor's appointment for my peanut allergies. My mother instantly blamed me for it, called me useless for surviving while the love of her life was dead, and spent the next 13 years trying to prove that my allergies had always been fake. The abuse escalated steadily throughout my childhood as my mother became obsessed with exposing my supposed lies. When I turned 8, she packed peanut butter sandwiches in my lunch and told the school nurse I was seeking attention when I broke out in hives and couldn't breathe. At 12, she served pad thai swimming in peanut sauce at my birthday party, then locked my EpiPen in her bedroom while I gasped for air on the couch. She even told my terrified friends I was just being dramatic. During my freshman year of high school, she baked cookies with peanut oil for my class fundraiser and informed my teacher that my allergy was purely psychological, a trauma response to my father's death. The morning of my 16th birthday, she blended ground peanuts into my protein smoothie behind my back to prove I only reacted when I knew they were there, but didn't even apologize after I spent 6 hours in the ER. After each incident, she would tell anyone who would listen that I was exactly like my father, always making everything about myself, always needing to be the center of attention. I escaped to college at 18 and cut off all contact, but 4 years later, my mother called sobbing about therapy and finally understanding her mistakes. Like an idiot, I believed her tears and drove home. The moment I entered, she snatched my purse for safekeeping and pushed me toward the dining room where the pad thai was waiting, its peanut smell already making my skin prickle. When I tried to leave, she hissed while blocking my path, "Your father would be ashamed of your selfishness." And before I could move, she grabbed the plate and threw it right in my face. The hot sauce flooded my mouth and burned my eyes as she screamed, "Stop faking and honor your father." My throat was already swelling shut as I stumbled blind toward my EpiPen in my purse, but my mother had already hidden it somewhere and I didn't have time to look for it. I threw myself through the kitchen window and ran to the neighbors who called an ambulance for me. After I made it to the hospital, cops were sent to my house, but my mother turned into Meryl Streep and told them that I had slipped onto the sauces container. That was it. That's when I decided that I would destroy this perfect facade of hers. But as I sat in the hospital bed recovering, my mind went back to the day of the car accident, and I remembered how my dad's phone had been buzzing constantly. He even looked frustrated with whoever was on the other line. So to find out the truth, I hired a private investigator who pulled the phone records from the day of the accident and discovered my mother had called my father 15 times during his 20-minute drive from the hospital, with the final call lasting until the moment of impact. The police report showed clear roads and no other vehicles, just a car that had veered into a telephone pole while the driver was distracted. 2 weeks later, I called my aunt and asked if I could host a family dinner to try to repair my relationship with my mother after what happened. She was thrilled and offered her house, inviting the whole family to support our reconciliation. As relatives gathered around the table, I mentioned how I'd been thinking a lot about dad lately, and had even pulled his old accident report to find closure. When my uncle said he never understood how the accident happened on such a clear day, I casually mentioned that I'd discovered something troubling in the phone records from that day. My mother's face went white as I explained that she had called my dad 15 times in 20 minutes while he was driving me to the doctor. The room fell silent as I continued, showing them the records on my phone, the final call lasting until the moment of impact. My mother tried to deny it, but then broke down, admitting she had been screaming at him to turn around and even threatened divorce if he didn't stop coddling his dramatic daughter. As the family turned to stare at her in horror, she suddenly lunged across the table at me, screaming, "You killed him! You and your fake allergies killed him! If it wasn't for you, then he wouldn't have been in that car." My uncle had to physically restrain her as she thrashed and sobbed, still trying to claw at me while shrieking that I had ended the life of the only man she ever loved. My aunt called the police when my mother grabbed a kitchen knife, and they had to escort her out as she wailed about how I had destroyed her life twice. My mother was charged with assault with a deadly weapon and placed on a psychiatric hold after the incident. She lost her job and spent 6 months in court-mandated therapy, where she was diagnosed with delusional disorder. At least I know now that the entire time she blamed me, she was simply projecting her own faults.